and welcome to the Sunset Safari, where once again, on these gloomy days, it promises not to really have a sunset. But you never know, this cold front might clear and the sun might decide to start poking through. It's getting there. But for those of you who are joining us for the first time, we are coming to you live from Djuma, Arathusa and Cheetah Plains Game Reserves in the Sabi Sand in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon I have Wiem on camera with me. And Wiem, I'm surprised we haven't spotted a lion already. It's usually how our afternoons go. We drive out 5 minutes out of camp and there's a lion sitting there. And today they're disappointed. They just haven't been around. But you can. We're not only live, but we are also interactive, which means send through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter. Now, those of you who are regular viewers will know that we are currently amping up for this weekend's TV shows, where we will be live to television in the United States. What that means is we're going to be doing some kind of weird things this afternoon every now and again. Whenever I say to you that we're going to see you after the break, or something amazing could happen before, but you have to stay tuned, never fear, you're not going anywhere. It's just practicing so that I don't gobble up my timing when it comes down to advertisements on television. For those of you who will be watching on the internet, that is of no way a concern. Right, now for those of you who missed it, just on the subject of television, we had a slightly foreshortened sunrise safari so that we could do some rehearsals and practice in secret and, you know, make all the mistakes that we'd rather not make in front of a larger audience. That's what we were up to this morning. But if you missed it, I have really, really exciting news, because lo and behold, I think we have a new active hyena den. It's not our current set of cubs that we've been watching over the last few months. They have most definitely moved into Simbambili, but it is the mother of the twins from last year, February, so cast your minds back in time. Or, if you've only started watching recently, she's a very low-ranking female hyena who I saw being disciplined by some of the high-ranking females a couple of months ago with Brian. And they were pulling on her ears and nipping at her bottom, as is the wont with hyenas when they have something of a clan skirmish. And we will be returning there this afternoon and waiting to see. She was sitting at the entrance to the den. She kept standing up and looking into it, sitting down again, exactly what Madam did at the start of the year before the two brand new little January twins wandered out. Now that, in theory, is my plan, as you know, because it's live and because it's unscripted. We never quite know exactly where the afternoon is going to take us. A serval could come dashing across the road. Or not, but a serval could come dashing across the road at any point, at which point all plans go completely out of the window and we rethink everything that we have started off by doing. While we go and scour the western side of Djuma, Brent Leo Smith and Brian Joubert are out and about on the boat, the newly refurbished boat. Let's find out what their plans are for the afternoon.
Welcome to today's Sunset Safari, and there's a buffalo crossing the road, and Brian Joubert and myself, and of course the thumb, are sailing the center of Djuma at the moment. And we're sailing past not a common animal to be seen from a boat, the Cape buffalo. Now this particular individual is a bedraggled old buffalo bull, referred to as a dugger boy. Now the reason he's called a dugger boy, if we look up on his back, you see all that mud caked on him. Dugger is a sort of colloquial African word for cement, and the dugger boys were quite famous in the mining industry of South Africa. They were incredibly strong, so most places in the world, this was obviously in the 1800s, these days people use concrete cement mixers. There were no such things then, so it was all done by manual labor. And those particular men who mixed the cement had a large reputation for being very, very strong, aggressive, and quick to anger. And were famous for knife fights and all-night binges, but incredibly physically strong from mixing the cement. Now these dugger boys are old. Oh, kudu alarm calling. Okay, well, I'm going to talk about the Duggar boy, but we need to get there. It could be Karula. Maybe she's done a loop around again. So, the Duggar boys, these old gentlemen that live away from the breeding herds, are pretty tough, and they can also be quite aggressive. So that's why you got to be careful for them when you're on foot, when you're in the boat, sailing through the bushveld. You're quite safe. But now we're hoping we're going to find what those kudu are alarm calling. It could be a lion, could be a leopard. I think it's more than likely a leopard. It sounds like it's on Zoe's road. No, Rebecca's road, beg your pardon. Let's get there and see what's happening. As the rust bucket, this is my first of the boat, and we will be sailing through the African wilderness on this sunset safari. Now, not only do I have Brian Joubert on the camera, we have her red master. So if we find any tracks of big cats, we will drop Herbert off. He will venture off into the wilderness on foot to try find those cats for us. For whatever those kudu were calling at, let's go back to Jamie.
While Brent hurries off to follow up on those alarm calls, you see, I told you, plans just go straight out of the window the minute you get out here. Now, we're not too far away from where Brent is. And what we'll do is we'll start sort of, not circling, but we'll try and take a sort of a wider route around him, just to see whether or not we can pick up on whatever it is that has upset that kudu, or at least give him a hint as to what he might be looking for in terms of spotting tracks. But before we do that, let's go and have a look at one of the, I always think of them as sort of almost like the models of the antelope world, especially the males. And I'm talking about a male nyala that I saw somewhere here. Now, Brent's just trying to get hold of me on the Game Drive channel, so bear with me 1 second. Standing by. Oh, no, nyala, going that way. All right. Copy, I'm coming power lines now. It will take me a little while to get there, but I'll check from there. Sorry guys, I know this is really exciting, but you sort of have a limited opportunity to spot these sorts of things, especially if it's Karula, who was around Djuma this morning after we closed down the sunrise safari. So let's have a quick look at this male Inyala, who is very much on the move. Isn't he absolutely gorgeous? The cousin of the kudu that Brent could hear barking. And you could sort of see what I mean when I say they are the models of the antelope world. They've got that very slow, almost exaggerated walk. And especially the males when they're doing their display dance. There's all kinds of alarm calls happening now. Let's go see what's going on. Take one last look at our beautiful kudu and his hooves, because it gives us an opportunity to answer Charlotte's question. Charlotte is watching in Port Elizabeth and has seen horses' hooves change in the way that they grow. Sometimes they split, sometimes they grow out after a disease or something similar. And I'm sorry, Charlotte, bear with me 1 second. Copy that. I'm a little bit far to get there, but I'll try and give you a hand in a moment. So guys, Aha. Brent has been following up on those alarm calls. Over to Brent and his leopard.
So we found it. It looks like Mvula, the male leopard, used to dominate over most of Djuma, and he was spotted by those kuru while he was trying to hunt them. Is it Mvula? No. I think it could be Tingana. I thought it might be Mvula just from who's been around. But I'm trying to look at the ears. Mvula's got very tatty ears. Why don't you guys let me know which leopard this is? I'm leaning towards Tingana now that I've had a closer look. But I'm sure a lot of you guys are far quicker on the leopard identification than I am. So we are in the boat, and the boat doesn't sail through drainage lines or river systems as well as the little vehicles. We will try to stick with them. No, I think this is Tingana. Hello, big boy. Now, he's a magnificent male leopard. He's our dominant male, and please don't go too far down there. This is not good, smooth sailing area for the boat. Looks like he's got a little bit of a limp, but nothing too serious. There we go, confirmation from Raisa. It is Tingana. Now I'm just going to call Jamie quickly. She's in the other vehicle. We might lose him through here. This is definitely not boat country. I'm going to try to keep an eye on him for as long as possible. He's gone through the little river system here. And there he is. Almost looking back going, ha ha, you can't follow me. So I'm just going to call Jamie. Jamie.
Standing by.
Jamie, what's your position?
Bala Road, do you want a hand?
If he's heading towards Philemon's through that very steep little section of two drainages, and I can't get the vehicle through there. I'm going to try to stick with him, but I'm about to lose visual. But he is heading generally towards Philemon's cut line between, probably just to the north of Shabam Junction.
See that upcoming?
Okay, so we're just going to get Jamie into the area to give us a hand. It's, whoa, nearly got a thorn in the side of the head there. We're going to try find a spot where we might possibly be able to get through this little river system. There we go. That's looking a little bit better for sailing. You're holding on, guys. Isn't this exciting? What a way to start the sunset safari with a bang from a leopard. Oh, he is looking a bit hungry, and Andreen noticed that. That was quite sore. I had thorns in my back there. Now, this is where decisions come in, Andreen. We've got to try to find a way through here, but I know there's another drainage system on the other side. Okay, there we go. Herbert spotted him from the back. He's actually gone that way. And we're going to try to stick with him. As I said, this is quite challenging in the boat. I think I do see a gap, though. Here we go. Just sneak through. Excuse me. Now, hopefully we're going to be able to climb up here. That looks quite steep. there, we've got him. He's right up ahead of us. But now, this is not ideal boating country.
Friend JB, good afternoon. I'm out now. I'll check how the whole now.
Okay, but fortunately, I'm experienced captain, and we're sailing through some rough sea at the moment, but it looks like we're going to come out of it on the other side. And there we go. Smooth sailing-ish from now on.
Like we're crossing south towards the
Sorry, JB, what did you say?
Brent had visual of Guatemala anywhere.
Here we go. So we're back with him. Slightly more calm seas as we move through here. Just going to pop up ahead of him. Now he is a magnificent specimen. He is a very big male leopard, and when they get to this really big dominant stage, you can have a look under his throat, and you can see he's got a dewlap. There you see he's limping a little bit, but that is not uncommon. It's quite hard to bring down some of the creatures that live here for a meal. Lots of different defense mechanisms. And he is particularly fond of warthog, which is one of the more dangerous of the prey species to hunt. At the moment, he's not really hunting, he's meandering, but if he happened to spot a potential prey species up ahead, he would definitely have an attempt at that. I'm just going to let everyone know that we've got him again. Stations, we've relocated on this Wanunengwe. He's now on Philemon's cut line, just to the south of the pump house. Isn't he beautiful? He definitely could use a meal. You can see there's a bit of loose skin on his belly, and that's what you can see. He's a bit hungry. But also just behind his back leg, you see it concaves in a little bit. That means he's not too full. And isn't he magnificent? There you can see that distinct dewlap. Oh, there we go, underneath his neck there. Now, male leopards have a lot thicker necks and a lot more loose skin around their necks than a female leopard. And this is to help them when they do fight. So they need a little bit of protection around that area. So he's about to go into some rough seas again. So we will try keep abreast of him. And Brian, what's the nautical term for left and right? It's stern and starboard and port. So we're gonna sail starboard in an southerly direction. But we will definitely try to stay with this leopard. Now he's the dominant male leopard in our area, and it still might be worth getting Jamie to come into this area. What she should do is she should probably head towards Treehouse Dam, and he might pop out there. So we're about to disappear for a few short minutes into an ad break. So before we do that, let's have one last look at him as he moves through. There he goes. And be sure to stay tuned for the ad, or straight back after the ad. If you miss anything, we'll show you a replay. Okay, so obviously, guys, we are practicing for TV this weekend. So we just are going to be running ad breaks, even though you might be a bit confused why I was talking about an ad break there. So far, a very successful first outing for the killer bees in the boat. So it's the triple bees, the killer bees on the boat, So we've been quite lucky. We've seen 2 big male leopards in the last few days. Now, Mvula, who used to be the dominant male in this area, and now Tingana, who is the dominant male. Whoopsie daisies. I'm sorry, guys. We've got to get used to sailing in the boat. There we go. The aerial popped down. We're just popping it up again. Don't worry, I've still got sight of the leopard. Now, he is heading towards the area where Queen Karula was seen late this morning by the other game drive vehicles, but she was heading to the south. Okay. I'm going to go through some choppy water here. Very short little rough patch of sea before we come into a nice little calm spot where we can get a nice view of the Tingana, the dominant male leopard. So Aaron was wondering if they happened to come across each other, what would happen? Would Mvula try stay and fight, or would he run away? If he had the option, Aaron, he would run away. Tingana is a few years younger and in magnificent condition in comparison to him, and he would definitely make a gap for it. But if he happened to be caught in a place, in a tree or whatnot, where he had to fight, he would fight till he was able to make an escape. So he's going into a very thick monkey orange thicket. So I'm going to try and move around it. And as I say, my first time at captaining the boat, so I get to get used to it. Okay, so I think we're going to go across to Jamie while we try and negotiate through this rough patch.
In order to help Brent out while he goes through the rough patch, Liam and myself have raced from the top northwestern corner, and we are on our way to help him out. I'm just trying to work out exactly where he is and exactly where I should be. So I've come through to Treehouse Dam, which is basically where Karula was left this morning. So we better slow down here. I don't want to risk missing a visual of a spotted cat of male or female variety. I just need to chat to Brent quickly and see where he wants me to go. Standing by. Copy that, thank you. Welcome back. Now, when you left us, we were on the search for the male leopard, Tingana. Brent was trying to get through some really difficult vegetation to make his way towards Treehouse Dam. So what we've done is we've raced all the way from the top northwestern corner of Djuma, and we've arrived here to wait for him to see if he's not going to pop out. Everybody waiting with bated breath, because Brent said he was heading straight for the water at Treehouse Dam. Now, I know that you may be thinking to yourself, what water? Well, I promise you there is water in Treehouse Dam, in the newly refurbished Treehouse Dam. The elephants, it's one of the dams that sits on a natural seep line, which means that the elephants have actually dug holes in certain places and brought water up from underground to the surface. I'm just listening really carefully to see if we can't hear Brent. He is busy communicating to me on the Game Drive channel as well. It seems as though, for the moment, Tingana has halted his movement and is taking a moment to just have a break. So we'll go and have a look at our wonderful dominant male leopard having a bit of a rest on a termite mound.
So we managed to catch up with him, and he's sitting atop a large termitaria. Now, it's not uncommon for leopards to do that. It gives them a nice bit of high ground to survey what's coming up ahead. Now, there is some natural seeps at the treehouse waterhole up ahead, so there could be possibility of impala and other animals down towards there. And he's just stopping before he's got there. You can see he's still quite alert, looking about. Standing by Jamie. So just chatting to Jamie quickly.
Can you just confirm Karula's last known position?
So I'm just going to let Jamie know where Karula was last seen, just so she can go have a look. Just to the, I suppose, the north of the southern boundary, between, probably 200 meters, no, maybe a bit more, 500 meters, above Shabam Junction. No, sorry, below Shabam Junction, between Shabam and Weaver's Nest.
Copy that, thanks. I'll be on standby to help if you need me, but I'm gonna go check the southern boundary.
Copy, thanks. So Jamie's going to go look for Queen Karula. She is the dominant female leopard in our area. And it looks like Tingana is going to have a little bit of a rest.
If you viewpoint south from the dam wall, you can see the Dulu of Jackal-Berry on top. She passed that Jackal-Berry.
Look at him looking at us. And Aaron in New Zealand is saying, well, there's two things. One, you cannot predict the weather and a leopard's movement. I've heard a slightly different one, Aaron, and it was from I think I'm going to err on the side of caution today and keep that one for a rainy day. So with the big cats, they do spend a lot of their time sleeping. So on average about 18 hours a day. Oops, I've lost my radio. I don't know where it's gone. It's fallen down while we're sailing through the rough seas. I've got it back now. So we've had quite a few different male leopards in the time I've been at Safari Live. And Marisha in Texas is referring to the last successful litter that Karula had. It was 2 male leopard, Quarantine and Kunuma. So she's asking, when they come of age, would they possibly challenge their father? Now, to say who their father is a very bold statement. I know a lot of people think it is Mvula, but it could quite possibly be another leopard. So female leopards will mate with multiple males over the course of their estrus cycles, and to try and show all the males in the area think that they happen to be the daddy. So in this circumstance, there's a strong possibility that Mvula is the father, but it's not a guarantee. He's already been pushed out of his core territory and by Tingana, so he's become a nomadic male, slightly different from a dispersal male. So Quarantine and Kunuma are dispersal male leopards. It means that they have been pushed away from their mother's territory, and they now need to move further on to make a territory of their own. And generally that can be quite a distance away from their mother's territory. Now that's to ensure that there's not too much inbreeding. Although inbreeding in big cats is not nearly as dire as in some other species, and they can inbreed for quite a few generations before there's any negative sort of side effects. But generally they will not challenge for territory within their mother's natal territory. They normally will be a couple of territories over. Not to say that it is impossible. Now, I have heard of leopards that have managed to survive, and generally with male leopard takeovers and a bit of confusion and whatnot, that have managed to set up territory in their mother's natal territory. But that is very unusual. And of course, they will end up mating with their mothers and their sisters and half-sisters. I've just got to be on the radio again quickly. Afternoon, Aubrey. I've got Tingana in the block between Savages and Philemon's Cutline. Best access will be from Savages, probably about 150 meters from Treehouse Mighty. So even though he is even though he's resting, he's still very much aware of what's around him, and he is definitely keeping a lookout. Oh, lovely, Brian. Brian's giving you some silhouettes there. Now, I hope you guys are getting some fantastic screenshots. If you hear some clickety-clickety, that's just me doing the same. And here we go, clickety-clickety. And please share your screenshots with us. And you can do that on our Facebook page, which is Safari Live, or pop it on Twitter with the hashtag Safari Live. Well, Killer Bee's back in a fine vein of form. I'm captaining the boat this sunset safari. Brian is my first officer, isn't it? First mate. First mate. Yes. Should we be pirates since we're on a boat? We're safari pirates. Well, we've got the long hair, Brian. You've got the bandana. That's very piratey. And Herbert's first officer. Yeah, so we've got a full array of... Maybe I should be admiral rather than captain. I like the sound of that. Admiral. Yes, I like that. Admiral of the fleet. Consisting of one boat. Well, you've got to start small. Apparently there's some wonderful screenshots coming through from Tingana. He is an absolutely beautiful big cat. And I think he might be Viem's favorite. I think Wiem is quite fond of a big male leopard. And he was chatting about Tingana being his favorite. Now that's how spoiled we are that we can have favorite leopards, because they all are so gorgeous. And we are very, very lucky to be able to spend as much time as we do with these incredible animals. Now, while he's having a snooze, this is a perfect opportunity to send in some questions, and you can do that by using the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Now, since I'm captaining the boat, admiral captaining, I can do both. I think I'll make up the rules as I go along. Lucy in South Bend's wondering if I've got more leg room in the boat. Well, Lucy, unfortunately, not really. It's about the same as the Landies. My legs still touch the steering wheel, so it's not that much bigger. It's bigger in the bottom. It's got a very big bottom and a bit of a bigger front as well. But in terms of driving space, that was made for short people again. I tend to drive like this with my one leg only on the accelerator, just choosing the right gear to sail through the bush. I'm glad it's not a sailboat, though. I definitely prefer a boat that's got a bit of motorized power. James Richard is being quite amusing, saying Brian's thumb should be a parrot. What was the thumb today, Brian?
I just had a beard.
It was a beard. Oh, it was a pirate beard. It's a pirate beard. So we are sticking to that. Yeah, yar. Station looking for Brent. Go ahead. Well, I'm giggling over Game Drive radios. Just me and Abel making his way. He's static pizzle Shadulu at the moment. Very nice.
Yeah, excellent, guys. I caught the message. Can I get a standby for that, please? Leaving the lodge.
Look at that. Isn't that just stunning? So I've got some incredible photographs over the years of male leopards atop of termite mounds surrounded by chloris grass. And that is exactly what we have here. Actually, he reminds me a little bit of a male leopard I used to see many years ago to the south of here, who was actually called the Magnoleti male and came from the northern Sabi sands, or the southern Magnoleti, and moved down towards the Sand River. And we used to nickname him Old Pale Face. He had a very pale face. Tingana's got a bit of a pale face, not quite as pale as Old Pale Face, and he was also a magnificent specimen. Now he's given us some real treats this year since he's taken over as the dominant male leopard. Lots of mating with the different ladies, and also I happened to witness a first for me with Tingana.
I think it must be that banana was overhead this morning. I'm not too sure. I haven't heard which one is that.
And I was tracking him around the Mwati River in the center of Djuma, and I was out on foot. And I walked up to a big termite mound to walk up and get a bit of a better view around. And as I did that, I saw him shoot like a rocket. And he grabbed a male impala no more than 30 meters from me. And that was the first and only time I've ever seen a leopard kill happen on foot. I then sprinted back to the car, and we managed to get there before the impala had stopped kicking. But it looks like he's going to have a snooze. Sorry, I'm going to be a bit busy on the game drive at the moment. There's quite a few people trying to get in here. I need to explain for them how to get in there. So while we discuss that, let's go see what Jamie's up to.
Well, Brent chats to the other guides, and I'm sure, as you can imagine, they've all got guests that are very keen to share in that moment with Tingana. I've come through to the southern boundary of our traverse area. And most of you know that our Queen of Djuma, the leopard that has her territory sort of in the center of Djuma, has been spending a great deal of time either on our side or either on our northern side or on our southern side. This morning she was hunting through this block that is off to my left, but her cubs, we suspect, are somewhere on my right. And the question is, did she manage to catch anything? And is she still on our traverse area, and has she gone to fetch those cubs? We're going to keep checking, and you will have to stay tuned to find out whether or not we managed to find the famous Karula. And for those of you watching on the internet, which is all of you, none of you had to go anywhere during the break. You get to stay tuned straight away to find out whether or not we figure out where she's gone. Now, there's no tracks coming out, which makes me suspect that she's somewhere around here still. And Kim, on the subject of questions, when we do our TV shows, no, absolutely not. Our show, I think it's one of the most fundamental parts of our show, is the questions that we get from the viewers, because otherwise it's not a safari experience, it's a show. And this is not really meant to be a show, it's meant to bring you the best possible imitation of a real live safari. What that means is that you will still be able to ask us questions on #SafariLive on Twitter, and we will still, what may happen, Kim, is that we may actually get far more than we would regularly do during our normal internet drives. That might mean that we cannot get through to absolutely everybody's question, as happens during our normal internet drives as well. but we will do our absolute best to be able to answer those that we can. Speaking of which, Charlotte, I do hope you're still watching. I'm so sorry, we got completely interrupted and completely distracted by the leopard. You were asking about animals' hooves and whether or not after an illness or something similar, the hooves of antelope, like the hooves of horses, might crack or grow in a strange manner. And the answer is yes, it does happen. But you don't see it as often as you might in a horse, because obviously a horse is a domestic animal, quite well protected and again looked after. Whereas an antelope with damaged hooves in some way is usually, I was going to say taken out of circulation, but that sounds terrible and that's not really what I mean, but is usually much easier prey for something like a hunting leopard or a hunting lion. There is a type of plant, and I think it's called a Crotalaria distica, but I'll have to double check that. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. That when it's eaten by certain antelope species, it actually affects their enzyme production that controls the growth of their hooves. And they end up with almost caricature-like curves. So their hooves just keep growing, and they curve upwards like a little elf shoe or something similar. And they flop. They can't really walk. It really, really restricts their movement. Now that's one of the ways in which an antelope has a disadvantage in terms of their hoof structure. Still focusing on finding Karula. I really want to check this area carefully. But while we do, a leopard in the hand is worth two in the bush, so to speak. So let's head back to Tingana.
Look at this magnificent male leopard, and we've just come out of the ad break. He's stopped, he's sitting on top of a termite mound, perusing the African bushveld that surrounds him. Now, this is not uncommon behavior for a leopard. He's been hunting. He had an unsuccessful hunt earlier. That's how we found him. We heard kudu alarm calling, giving that deep bass bark, telling everyone in the bush, leopard, leopard, be careful. So he's moved away from where those kudu were, and he's decided to take a rest on top of this large termite area. Now, there's a possibility he might get moving at any point, but we are going to make our way out of this sighting shortly to give space for another vehicle, but as soon as there's space again, we'll come back in here. Now, he's quite hungry, and Shane's wondering, how long do leopards normally go between meals? Well, Shane, they can go for as long as 4 days, 5 days, but it's generally 2 or 3 days. I'm saying it's most likely he's probably going to make a kill within the next 24 hours. Amazing. So beautiful. Welcome back. We've just come out of the ad break. He hasn't moved since you were last with us. He's still sitting atop of this large termite mound. And isn't this exciting? We're with the dominant male leopard of Djuma as he peruses over his domain. Now, he is quite hungry, so we're going to stick with him because there's a good chance he is going to hunt. Now, also, remember, we are live in the African bush. That leopard is snoozing in real time. You're seeing it at the same time I am. And if you want to ask a question about it, pop me an email. Use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, and we will hopefully be able to answer that question to the best of our ability. So even though his eyes were closed, watch his ears. He's always listening. So of course he's the dominant male leopard over the same area that Karula, our dominant female leopard, is. And Donna in South Carolina is wondering what would happen if Tingana, the dominant male leopard, happened to come across Karula, the dominant female leopard, and her cubs. But more specifically, what would he do with those cubs? Now, Karula mated extensively with them, and he does have a little bit of a reputation for eating cubs, even his own, naughty boy. But it seems like he's a bit more settled now, and he has been seen playing with Shadow's cub. So it's most likely that he wouldn't do anything untoward towards those cubs. But one must remember, this is wild, so you never know what's going to happen. He might be in a bad mood, he might be particularly hungry. So I would say there's probably 85% chance that nothing nefarious will happen to those cubs, but there is always that chance with male leopards. Most leopard cubs are actually killed by other male leopards, not by hyenas and lions, as is often thought. So while Mr. Tingana has a snooze, and we're chatting a little bit more about leopard cubs, Nisa, who's in North Carolina, is saying she's heard that when a mom is killed, another female will adopt the leopard cubs of that female that has been killed. Nisa, not really. Unfortunately, with leopards, if that female's died and she does have cubs, that is pretty much a death wish for those particular cubs. A death sentence, sorry, not a death wish. So guys, we're going to make space for Taxon to come in here and enjoy the sighting. We've got to be nice and share, but as soon as there's another space, we'll come back in. So we'll say goodbye to Mr. Tingana while he's snoozing. Hopefully we can come see him a little later. So while we gonna try sail this ship out of the thicket here, and just get hold of Taxi on the radio. Now, I'm going to show you a little safari guide trick. This is what we would call a bush road sign. So I'm going to drop this when we get to the road, and that will show the next guys coming through which is the best way to get to that leopard. Tax, keep coming. I've made space for you. I'm going to drop a red bush willow branch on the road for best access in.
Yeah, I'm going to wait in that. Thanks so much.
It's payback for Mvula the other day. Thanks for. Just joking with Tax there. He's the guide from Djuma. He found us in Mvula a few days ago, so we found him Tingana. Tit for tat, you know? Of course, one of the ways we find these incredible creatures is by tracking their footprints. And Abby Sheck is wondering, how do we tell the difference between a male and a female leopard's footprints? Well, firstly, the male leopard is about double the size. Tingana probably weighs around 190 pounds, to maybe even as much as 200 pounds, whereas Karula, who's a female leopard, only weighs about 100 pounds. So being that much physically bigger, the tracks are almost sometimes double the size. So I'll do a quick comparison for you now. Let's just find a nice bit of soft sand, a little bit further away from where the leopard's sleeping. Yeah, this looks like it will be just dandy. Okay, now I just need to get my radio with me. Now, when we're out in the bush, you've got to learn to use what's around you. So, this shall be my pen, so to speak, and this will be my canvas. And let's smooth it down, make it a little bit easier to see. How's that looking, Brian? Good canvas? I'm going to show you sort of a general size first for a female leopard track. Probably encompasses an area about that big. A male, can you see that? I know the light's a bit. Yeah, maybe you should dig it deeper. That's a male leopard. We'll make that a male leopard. That's a male leopard track, about average size, and the female leopard track probably about that. Now, I'm not very good at this, but I'll give it a go. We're going to try draw a leopard track. I've actually seen people who are absolutely incredible at it. So what I'm going to do, and they use their thumb. So we'll start with the toes. Oh, I cleared all the soft sand away. That was too much clearing. One must always be aware in the bush. I think I hear some elephants down there. We'll go look for them shortly. So I'll start. How many toes does a leopard have? I think I've forgotten. I'm just playing. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not very good at this, am I? So, and then the pad itself, I think, if I remember correctly, I saw someone do this. You use the base of your hand, and then you add the little lobes with your. How's that look, Brian? It's wonderful. I think it's not too bad. It's possibly the largest male leopard track that's ever looked, and looks very much like a lioness track rather than a leopard track. But there we go. Well, one must try. What is stalking us? I think it's actually Jamie who's stalking us. I think I see them through the bush. Anyway, I know she's looking for Queen Karula. And let's go see Jamie, because I think she got caught out. She thought she was going to catch us. But that's why awareness is always very important in the bush.
I think we thought we were sneaking up on them better than they were, but they've seen us, and apparently this raisin bush in front of us was not quite adequate protection to shield us from sneaking up on Brent and Brian, which was actually not my intention. I was just coming out from Karula's last position, having checked where she lay down underneath a jackalberry tree, but there is no sign of her there, and so we're going to continue on. Which way has Brent gone? He's gone that way. Brilliant. Okay, we shall go right. It has been determined. And off they go.
There sails the great ship.
There sails the great ship, says Viam. Oh, where'd it go? Behind the tree. That ship moves fast. So while the boat sails off to the west, we're going to head off to the east. Apparently she was seen lying up, but she was looking in the direction of Twin Dams Road, and that there were lots and lots of impala around the fire break. So what we're going to do is we're going to start heading across in that direction and see if we can't see any signs of her. Might have been that I missed her tracks coming across the road. There have been lots and lots of buffalo about. And they might have trundled away across her tracks. Oh, there's a little bird in here, and it's going to be very difficult for Liam. And I know that he hasn't seen it yet. It's at the base. I think I'm going to have to go forward. You got it? You're amazing, Liam. How on earth did you do that? That was incredible. This might be one for some of you on your bird list because it is such a shy little bird. That was a black-crowned chagra. So have I. I've also come. Oh, there he is. Go back a bit. Liam's incredible. How he managed to see that bird, I do not know. Oh, it's hopping around at the base there. I think let's just stay for 1 second because it might move out into the open. That is a black-crowned chagra. We get to, oh, there he is.
The leaves.
You see the leaves moving? He's just gone behind the tree. There where those leaves are moving, in the almost center of your screen, I think is where he is. You can see the movement of the leaves, but not the bird itself. It's been a mission of mine to get a, oh, there you are. Oh! And this is why chagras are so incredibly difficult to get on camera, because they don't really sit still for 1 second. It's a bird call that we often hear, but we hardly ever see. He's moved into the guari now, off to the left. Now we're just playing Spot the Chagra. It's like a mammoth game of hide and seek that I am not winning. Oh, come on, Chagra. So the black-crowned chagra has that beautiful whistling call that the drongos love to imitate. And then the brown-crowned chagra, what did you see there, Vian? Aha! Oh, those things that are right in front of me on the ground. Having a really solid grooming session. We've been focusing a lot on the large spotted cats. It's nice to stop for some of the smaller things, and it just goes to show when you sit still for a bit, you never know what you might find. Which includes an entire family of dwarf mongoose enjoying some bonding grooming time. Having a jolly good clean, getting all of the parasites and fleas and little ticks off each other, and giving us the perfect view of their sharp little teeth every now and again. And definitely one of my favorite things to stop and have a look at. A dwarf mongoose family. And this could well be the same group of dwarf mongoose that Liam and myself watched quite a while ago now, a few months ago, when they were confronted by a cobra and proceeded to move their little babies away from the den and into a different den site. And this one,
Sorry, I won't disrupt you.
sorry?
Take down the screen.
Oh. Where'd it go?
Yeah, take in the screen.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much, Liam. That is a brown-crowned chagra. And the one we were looking at, I think, earlier was a black-crowned chagra, but we've got a brown-crowned chagra, also previously known as a three-streaked chagra. That's brilliant. Well done, Liam. And unlike that whistling call of the black-crowned chagra, somebody once told me that the call of the brown-crowned chagra sounds like a cartoon horse rolling down a hill, because it starts with a bill snap and then kind of like a sort of cartoon tumbling whistle. So that was the brown-crowned chagra. So there you go, 2 chagras in one list. For those of you who keep track of all of our birds. The dwarf mongoose also practicing their yoga poses. Oh, there's 3 there. I didn't even realize. And I completely agree, Tony. Our cameramen are, I always think that they're probably some of the most talented, or at least skilled, camera folk in the world. Liam, of course, an absolute pro. And you know when something happens that our cameramen are going to be right there filming it. This grooming session is actually really sweet. It's got a young one and 2 older ones. The young one's got slightly flatter nose. Now, this social grooming is very, very important in terms of keeping each other bonded and also keeping track of the hierarchy within the group itself. So the alpha female and the alpha male usually get the most offers of grooming, but that's not always the case. They do enjoy a communal session involved with their sort of unifying their bonds. Having some serious grooming time. And as I said, it really does give us a nice view of those sharp little teeth. Now, I mentioned that this might be the same group that we saw moving their youngsters all those months ago. And by that stage, or by this stage now, those babies that we saw would be almost fully grown. Now, red dog, you were wondering at what point a dwarf mongoose grows up. Is it an adult at a year, or is it an adult around 6 months? And the answer is they are pretty much ready to be out and about and roaming with their family at around 3 months. And then yes, 6 months to 8 months, usually about 8 months, that they would be considered to be fully grown. They are having so much fun. The last few days would have been particularly difficult for these dwarf mongoose. It has been so cold. And we know that in winter they tend to be somewhat lazy in terms of their waking up time, or at least their time to leave their burrows. And that's because as a tiny little animal, it's very easy for them to lose body heat and quite difficult to gain it back. You see those sharp little canines sticking out every now and again. If you look really carefully, you have a chance to see them. Oh, have a quick nibble of the armpit. They look like little Draculas with those fangs sticking out. They are having such a ball. Food time is over, and it's time to reunite after a day spent foraging. Definitely some of the most entertaining animals to sit and watch. Now, for you guys to get a sense of scale is really, really tricky. And dwarf mongoose is absolutely minuscule. I mean, if you stick out your hand from the tip of its nose to the tip of its tail, it probably wouldn't even reach from the tip of your fingers to the crease of your elbow. They're exceptionally small, only a couple of 100 grams. And their strength comes in the way in which their family is organized, and safety in numbers as well, and the fact that the entire family is devoted to helping to raise the young of the alpha female, including her offspring from a previous litter. They will be employed, so to speak, as, ooh, what's in that log? I want to see what's in there. Oh, maybe it's not so interesting. Well, then we'll just groom each other. nibble, 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 nibble. Yes, the young will be employed or at least utilized as babysitters. I said the strength comes with a family bond, and Nisa, no. A dwarf mongoose group doesn't... Okay, this is a slightly more tricky question. A dwarf mongoose family doesn't accept the external dwarf mongoose in a situation where the two clans have met up, or the two groups have met up. However, there has to be a way for dwarf mongoose to spread their own genes and to keep the gene pool fresh. And just bear with me 1 second. I know that Brent is calling me. I'm just going to ask him to stand by. Stand by 1. Now, what happens then is very often in clan disagreements or in mongoose group disagreements where they've encountered their neighbors, sometimes young females of breeding age, perhaps fed up of the fact that they haven't had an opportunity to have their own babies, will actually kind of sneak into the outskirts and basically abandon their family and hang around with this new group. It takes them a while to be accepted, but it does happen. And the interesting thing about that is that those females that disperse away from their family groups, on average, become the alpha female and are able to breed far sooner than those females that stay within their own family group. Now, it's not entirely clear exactly what it is that makes some of the mongoose disperse and some stick around in their original family group. Perhaps it's a personality or a character thing. Perhaps it's a genetic push that some have and others don't. But the dispersal of dwarf mongoose for both male and female is a really, really interesting part of their dynamics. Banded mongoose, which is the only other social mongoose that we get out here, do something very similar. They have a very, very similar family structure. I keep getting distracted by those really cute canines that stick out every now and again while they're grooming each other. Like little alligator teeth. Banded mongoose do something similar, except what they often do is when the two clans clash, or when the two groups of mongoose clash, the females sneak up to one of the strange males and mate with them and then go back with their family. Unfortunately, those babies often don't survive. Look at that. I do hope some of you are taking some amazing screenshots. They remind me, I know what it is they remind me of. It's like something out of the movie Ice Age with really long, exaggeratedly long canines sticking out. That's what it reminds me of. Sorry, I do need to find out what Brent was trying to tell me. I did hear him report that he found Karula's tracks crossing south. This has been a very special sighting. It gives you some really nice insight into the dentition of a dwarf mongoose. I mean, we don't often get close enough to see. Extraordinarily long canines, and they are, of course, the smallest predator on Djuma and in the Sabi sands. Brent, sorry, please go ahead with your message. Copy that, thank you. I'm going to make my way west, I think, to Arathusa. Copy that, thank you. And Brent just wanting to let me know that he found Karula's tracks going south, which I suppose we sort of expected. We were hoping, though, that she wasn't going to go to the south of our boundary. And then he wanted to know what route I'm going to take so that we don't end up bumping into them once again. I think we'll leave our dwarf mongoose to their grooming session and carry on. I want to head across to Arathusa for a couple of reasons. One, we think that Sindile's last GPS point came through on Shirley's property. By that, I mean, for those of you who are unfamiliar, Sindile is a leopard that has just been re-released or released into the wild after spending several months in quarantine because he was exposed to a rabid dog. He's absolutely fine, he's free from rabies, and he's been tracked regularly with a GPS collar. But the collar's GPS signal comes through at random times and infrequently. And we're sort of kind of really keeping our fingers crossed that at some point he is going to pop into Arethusa or one of our traverse areas. However, it's very skittish, so we'll have to take things nice and slow. Right, well, we head across to the west. Let's send you back over to Brent to find out what his plans are.
Unfortunately, we went and found Karula's tracks, and she has moved out of our traverse zone. So that is a little bit sad. We are planning to return to Tingana, the dominant male leopard of Djuma, a little bit later on the safari. And in the meantime, we're just going to have a look, sail around, see what we can see. And we are, of course, not sailing on the ocean, but we are in a boat. And that is the name of the vehicle we're on. And we're going to sail through the woodland, seeing what we can find. Hi, Autumn. Autumn is 12 years old. Autumn, that is a beautiful name, and it's a beautiful time of the year. Now, Autumn's wondering, are there any animals that scare me out here? Well, Autumn, if I have to be 100% honest, they might give me a fright sometimes, but I don't think they scare me a lot. I have a lot of respect for the animals. So if you lose that respect for animals, that's when you can get into a potentially dangerous situation. So I thought I spotted something there, but alas, nothing. So autumn, because it is actually sort of autumn for us here. We don't really have seasons like you do in the northern hemisphere, but we are in winter, but this is probably the closest to our autumn. As you can see, the beautiful color change in the trees that's happening at the moment. There we go, an autumn tree for autumn. I'm going to keep heading around. So where we initially found that male leopard at the beginning of the safari, there were a lot of other animals around. The kudu were barking, "Bo, bo," and obviously if you speak kudu, they were going, "Leopard, leopard." But I also noticed some zebra and some other animals around there, so we're going to go have a look if we can catch up with those creatures before we head back to that male leopard. Now, of course, we are live, so whatever I'm saying, you're saying. At the moment, we're seeing a beautiful, dusty African road. The dirt out here, as you could see a bit earlier, I don't mind rolling around in and getting involved in. It's good, clean dirt, in my opinion. And ever since I was... Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Ever since I was a little boy, possibly the hardest thing in the world for me is to keep clean. I can start immaculately clean, and it doesn't even take me 10 minutes before I've got dirt on my pants, on my shirt, on my hands, in my hair. So, but again, it is good, clean dirt. This is a question I'm going to pass on to my shipmates out in the back of the boat as well. And it's from Aaron in New Zealand. Of all the creatures we see and don't see too often, which is one creature you would choose to see more often of? So I'm going to let Brian go first. It's a tough one. Serval, which is a gorgeous little cat, and slightly... Oh, there's a buffalo hiding in here. I just heard him. And now, that's why you got to be careful of buffalo. They can disappear in a thicket. So, there we go. Brian's seldom seen little creature he would like to see more of is a serval. Herbert? Of all the small things that we don't see too often, what would you like to see the most of?
Aardvark.
Aardvark. So aardvark is also, I don't think it's ever been seen on a live safari. And we have seen them outside of safari times while driving up and down, but never on the live safari. And mine, I'm thinking, now this is quite a difficult one. I'm quite torn, I won't lie, because serval is definitely high up on my list. And for those of you who might not know what a serval looks like, it is a gorgeous little spotted cat. Oop, pushing the wrong. Now, they are really, really wonderful little hunters. There we go, that's what a serval looks like. Now, Brian and I were lucky enough to be together to have the first ever live serval sighting on Safari Live. Before that, there'd only been one dead serval sighting that was killed by Shadow, a female leopard. So there we go, that's the serval. Now, let's go to Herbert's seldom seen animal he'd like to see a lot more of. And that is the aardvark. Now that is a strange thing. Aardvark basically translates to earth pig. Now the only aardvark we've seen on Safari Live have been hanging in a tree. And Tingana, that male leopard we've seen already in the Sunset Safari, is an aardvark expert. I've even seen him spend nearly a whole day lying next to one aardvark burrow, waiting for them. Now, I've seen aardvark quite regularly where I live at home, but I think I've seen them once here, driving home from Sibambili one night. And now I still haven't answered my question. Now, as far as my research goes into this, it is one of my favorite little creatures, and it's a very little known creature. The last sighting of an aardwolf in the Sabi Sands was in 1970 something on Londolozi. Sorry, 1 second. Just stand by one. So an aardwolf is a member of the hyena family, but he eats termites. Look at that. Now that is just one of the most incredible little creatures for me, and I've been very fortunate to spend a lot of time with them in my younger years in Botswana. We found a den, and after a couple of months I was actually able to lie almost nose to nose with the babies out of the den. And that is, for me, probably one of the small creatures that I would really like to see a lot more of. Also, there's a bit of bragging rights to see the first one in the Sabi Sand since the 1970s, and that always goes down quite well. I may or may not have a competitive streak in me. Okay, well, let's carry on, see what we can find. Just going to be on the Game Drive radio again quickly. Brent standing by.
Yeah, Brett, I just want to let you know that if you're interested to come back, it's only 2 hours now.
Copy, thanks very much, Tax. I'll make my way back there. So, very exciting news before we head into a little ad break. We are going to be making our way back towards that male leopard, and we're going to be spending probably the remainder of the Sunset Safari with that beautiful big cat, and I'm hoping he goes hunting. So very, very exciting news. And it seems like all the zebra and kudu that were here a little bit earlier have made a disappearing act. So we're going to head off into the advert break, and we're going to swing around and head back towards that massive male leopard. So still practicing the ad breaks, guys. I know it must be a bit funny for you, but we need to sort of get it down before the weekend. A very exciting weekend ahead for Father's Day. Yeah, we're just going to turn around quickly. We're heading back towards Tingana. While we do that, let's go see Jamie, who's got one of them Tingana's favorite meals.
At first, I thought they might have been barking at Tingana, but we're a little bit far away. And I've just realized these two rams are actually challenging each other. So I'm just going to be quiet to let you hear the sounds they're making. interesting. That's the typical impala alarm call, but they're not alarm calling. If they were, they'd be steering off in one direction. And I think they've got caught in a vicious cycle here. The one's alarm calling and the other one instinctively follows suit, but neither of them know exactly what it is they're shouting at. But they're looking around. At the same time, they kind of want to size up each other because they don't really want to turn their back on a potential opponent. And the hormones are just starting to drop now. Let's go forward a little bit because this is very interesting. But I don't want to go too close because otherwise we'll disrupt them from what they're doing. And they're being quite fascinating at the moment. There's no leopard there or lion. They've just got confused. And we're coming to the end of the impala breeding season. But there's still residual hormones floating about. Some of the females still in the second estrus that they go through. And as a result, they don't really want to be all on their own, but at the same time they're aware of the fact that another male is a potential threat. So they're kind of constantly sizing each other up. Fascinating. And these live safaris give us a chance to actually watch the animals as they go through the changes that happen in their lives throughout the year. Oh, oh, oh. Come on, you two. Skip, skip. I'm busy. Now the one is very clearly larger than the other, the one that is advancing. And the male is sort of trying to back away and at the same time making sure that he doesn't present his back to his opponent. Whoopsie, there's a tree there. You've got to look where you're going when you're reversing like that. And it almost looks like he's enticing the other male to fight with him, and yet he's constantly backing down. He's not initiating a fight. Oh yes, let's pull the silly faces to go with the whole display. Let's go forward a little bit and keep track of these two. Oh, don't do this, Rusty. No, Rusty, no! We've got to come back into TV after the imaginary adverts.
Give it a wiggle.
I'm giving it a wiggle. I'm giving it a wiggle. Oh no! And welcome back. While you were away, the impala were doing something fascinating. So why don't you have a look at this clip? One is very clearly larger than the other, the one that is advanced. At first I thought they might have been barking at Tingana, but we're a little bit far away. And I've just realized these two rams are actually challenging each other. So I'm just going to be quiet to let you hear the sounds they're making. Oh, there you go. Something fascinating happening with the impala. We're going to now pretend. I can't. Okay, sorry, the hysteria has set in slightly. I think it's maybe possibly the exhaustion. Come on, Rusty, please turn. Okay, one more time, come on. Give it a wiggle. No, Rusty, please not on Gowrie Main. Please not on Gowrie Main. So while I attempt to recover myself and get Rusty started, my apologies for the complete hysterics, but this is hilarious. I'm going to send you back over to Brent, who's on his way back to Tingana.
So we just arrived back with this dominant male leopard. He's just moved slightly. Maybe he's got a little bit uncomfortable in the last spot he was lying. Oh, it looks like he's going to settle in for another snooze. Well, let's get a little bit closer. So you'll notice we do drive over the occasional bush or tree. And here we go. Let's just get into the spot. How's that for you, Brian? So as I was saying, we do drive over the odd tree, but we choose which species we drive over very carefully. We never drive over any slow-growing trees. We always make sure it's the faster-growing trees. And also, if you have a quick look around, and I will show you a little bit later. Oh, look at him trying to get comfortable. Very sweet. It's cold out there, even if you are a big kitty. And we'll discuss the trees a little bit later. Let's just have a look at him. What a beautiful big boy. Now, Anne in Texas is wondering how long he's been the dominant male in this area and how long is he likely to stay dominant for. So Anne, quite interestingly, he's been a dominant male probably for about 2 or 3 years already, but he was dominant far more to the west of us in Arathusa. Then a new male called Anderson arrived on the scene and pushed him further and further to the east, and he lost a lot of what was his old territory to that new male, and so he moved into this area and pushed Mvula further on, and Mvula is actually now past his prime, so he's a nomadic male running between the different males' territories. He's been both in Anderson and Tingana's recently, and Tingana has very much established himself in this area at the moment. He's actually been extending, from what I've been hearing, north into Buffelshoek. So very, very interesting. He is holding a massive area at the moment. Now, the one thing about territories is you don't want to be too big because it's very hard to control a massive area. Of course, there's lots of weak boundaries, so to speak. But at the moment, Djuma forms sort of the center core of his territory. Isn't he just beautiful? So, as I said, he's been a dominant male for about 3 years, and he will continue to be a dominant male probably for another good 4 or 5 years. Now, what's incredibly interesting with male leopard territories and how they work, they do move, and him moving is probably about on par with the research. But we'll continue this discussion once we get back from Jamie, who's got some very active impala.
Oh. Well, the impala are manically chasing each other around. So when you left us, we couldn't move the vehicle. Magic Secret Agent VM managed to get it started. It now seems to be working absolutely fine. You can see by the dust that is spread across the road just how violent that clash was between those two male impala. And they've totally separated now. They've gone off their different ways. There's a very clear victor. He shoved his opponent into the tree that was on the side of the road. And then as soon as the opponent could, he gave way. There's the big male, there's the victor. He's chased the other guy further to the south. And as soon as he could, the opponent sort of backed away and raced off. And the victor gave chase in a sort of a victory lap through the bushes and around further to the south. So that's what's happened. I have recovered myself. I'm no longer in hysterics. My apologies for that. It was just hilarious. And Rusty seems to be starting just fine. I told you, Secret Agent VM has a special technique for such things. But don't tell anyone he's a secret agent, because that's why he's called a secret agent. It's only because I've cracked the code. I've figured it out. VM just smiles. Smiles. I know, I just told everybody. I'm sorry, Veer. It's okay. It can be like a double bluff. And I think that concludes our impala sighting. And so we can continue on our quest to get to Arathusa and find out where that male lion from this morning decided to wander off. Now, while we go there, let's go back to Brent and his leopard.
As you can see, this big boy has not moved an inch, but quite often with the big cats, to get those spectacular sightings, you have to play the patience game. And a little saying I like to banter about, I don't know if I can remember it, I haven't said it in so long, Brian, is that, oh, I can't, I actually can't. No, but basically what it boils down to, you have to put the hours in, and often you sit many hours with sleeping cats. We must remember, a male leopard probably sleeps on average 18 hours a day. And you've just got to have the patience to wait for that excitement, that movement, that hunt, that fight, whatever it might be. The only way to do it is to spend time with these animals. And of course, there's nowhere I'd rather be apart from sharing this incredible experience live with you wherever you might be in the world. And remember, I love it when you ask me questions, so you can do that by using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, and hopefully I'll be able to answer those questions. And if you stump me, all the better. It means I've got to go do some homework. So Tingana might sound like quite a strange name to you. And Abhishek's wondering who named him. I'm not sure. It would have been one of the lodges to the west of us. Tingana means shy. So when he originally arrived in this area, he was a very unrelaxed male leopard. And with time and effort, he's become a nice, relaxed male. He's a dominant male and probably the most common big male we see on the drives. So Tingana means shy, and I think maybe Arathusa, Elephant Plains, they would have been the ones who named him. Now, I don't know if we're picking that up, Brian, on the ambient.
There you go.
Here we go. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Okay. Now, if you could hear that, I think it's time to put your brains to work. So for our birders out there, who can tell me which bird was calling there? It does sound a little bit like rusty bed springs. If you want, actually, I'll give you another listen. It was a little bit faint, but if you know the name of that bird, oops, pushing buttons on radios, send me the answer to the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, and I will see if you are correct or not. So, hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, and I will play it a little bit louder so you can hear it a bit more clearly. Now, it is one of my favorite of the family. It is also the smallest of the family we get here. There's some little clues for you. There's the call a little bit. Here we go. I hope you guys can hear that a little bit better. And I'm going to let you guys use your imagination to why it was nicknamed the rusty bedspring bird. I'm guessing he's probably going to get moving. And it's very difficult to say. He could get moving in the next 5 minutes. He could get moving in the next 3 hours. You never know. But it is always, as I say, worth playing the patience game. Now, the big cats all sleep quite long hours, and Ginny's wondering who sleeps longer, the lion or the leopard. And Ginny is all the way from the great state of Texas. Jenny, on average, lions will sleep longer than leopards. Leopards tend to be a little bit more active, not that much more active. Male leopard probably sleeps on average 17 to 18 hours a day, whereas a male lion sleeps up to about 20, sometimes even more if he's got a full belly. And you see there's a gentle breeze in the grass. You just see the tips of that chloris grass almost floating. Now, if you didn't know he was there, he would disappear. That's quite often why leopards like to lie on termite mounds, because if you have a look to the left, his head could easily be just another bobble of the termite mound from a distance. Could be just another chimney. So it's always a good spot for them to lie, and sometimes unsuspecting prey might meander very close to them. Isn't that incredible? How you can just disappear in plain sight. I suppose that is one of the leopard's greatest advantages with that incredible camouflage they have. So a very big well done to RG and Penny, who got that bird spot on. It is indeed a Coqui francolin, and one of the prettier of the smaller francolin species. And we're going to have a look at him now. We can hear him calling. There we go. Now that would have been a male Coqui francolin calling. Very, very pretty. Also the smallest of the francolin species we get around here. Slightly more retiring than the crested and Natal. So one of the more difficult ones to see, along with my favorite of all favorite francolin species. And that is the Shelley's francolin. There we go. Now, I don't know, I just find them incredibly beautiful, the different patterns and colors. And they've also got a wonderful call. And another francolin you hear far more often than you see. Now, that's the joy of being in the bush. You never know what you might hear or might see while you're sitting next to a sleeping leopard. We're going to continue to play the patience game with Tingana, the dominant male leopard, over Djuma, Arathusa, and Cheetah Plains, or half of Cheetah Plains at the moment. And we're going to be hoping he is going to move towards the treehouse waterhole for a drink and maybe a little hunt. But we're about to go into an ad break, so we'll see you soon. And don't worry, we'll make sure you don't miss a thing. As we can see, Tingana is riveted with the ad break that is happening at the moment. He is very excited by it. Of course not, he's had a snooze. Now, I wonder where he's come from, because the last tracks of his we had were going out miles away from here. So I think he's been walking some very big distances at the moment, trying to maintain this large territory that he has. Oh, excuse me. Now, he's got a little bit of a limp, and OP in Minnesota is wondering, is that going to affect his hunting? I don't think so. It doesn't look very major to me at all. OP might be a fraction of a yard slower, but I don't think it's going to affect his ability to hunt. Now, these big cats are incredibly resilient and are able to take a lot more punishment than we would ever expect, and recover from injuries far faster than we would ever expect as well. So we're going to sit here playing the patience game with Tingana. While we do that, let's go see what Jamie's up to.
And Jamie is just casually driving along, in Knobthorne Open, and I say casually, I'm just trying to find a good position to show you my lovely surprise that I've got planned for you. Hold on one moment. I'm going to try and get a better position. My word. Hello, boy. Look who we have. He came as such a surprise that I nearly drove past him, fast asleep on the edge of the open area. And this is the gentleman that gave us the slip this morning. Oh, big sigh there. Wow. The Birmingham boys no longer looking quite as sort of scarless as they were when they first arrived. Definitely been in a couple of fights. Now, this is the boy that was calling this morning. We were trying to find him and we were really seriously struggling. He just kept being, we just kept missing each other, essentially. Wow, look at that. Now those scars tell a serious story. This lion's last year as one of the dominant males of the Birmingham Boy Coalition. Scraps with each other, scraps with females, and probably fights with other males, although we haven't heard much about them. Nevertheless, they've had some serious physical action since they first moved in as the dominant males. Now we're on Arethusa, not far away at all from where we last saw the Matimba males. At the moment, I'm not 100% sure which Birmingham boy this is. Oh, but I think he might give us a nice glance. Hello, boy. I know the feeling. Bad hair day after waking up. I think this might have been the male that was mating with that Nkuhuma lioness. He's just gotten up, I think, to... Oh, I thought he was actually going to relieve himself, but apparently he's decided that that buffalo thorn is going to be the absolute best place to lie down. His hair, his mane was so muzzed up and messy when he got up. And it's an interesting choice of resting place. And with all of those twigs and thorns, it can't really be the most comfortable. It was almost like he said to us that he was a bit tired of the paparazzi and he was going to go and hide his face behind the tree. Fortunately for him, it's still very much in an open area, so we will be able to reposition in a moment just to have a slightly better view. I think he's on his way to join his buddies south of our boundary, and the day just got far too exhausting, and he decided that it was time to rest and relax and wait until the fall of night before moving on. That definitely appears to be the best spot to lie. Fair enough, it's his choice. Not really where I would have gone to settle down, but then again, I'm not protected by quite that mane of hair. Welcome back to our television viewers, our imaginary television viewers. My name is Jamie, and for when you were on the break, we've spoken before about the fact that you never know what's going to be around the next corner. And here we have a large male lion resting up right underneath a buffalo thorn, looking a little bit sort of fuzzy, a bit frazzled, and like he needs a jolly good nap before the evening falls and he can go off and rejoin the rest of his coalition. Let's reposition quickly and then I'll tell you a bit more about the history behind this male. Catherine has said that he's having a bad mane day. I'm just so that you know, sorry Catherine, that is actually hilarious because that is exactly what he's having, and I said I know the feeling because I really do. I'm just trying to drive relatively carefully on this open area and keep my vehicle tracks on the vehicle tracks of the other vehicles. The reason I say that is because with this drought and with minimal ground cover, I want to reduce the damage that we do to this area or keep it to an absolute minimum, which means staying within where the tracks go so that the area of the damage is minimized. Here we go. Hello, boy. You feeling particularly sleepy this afternoon? You've got an interesting tip of a tail, this male. Really, really dark black and not quite as fluffy as that of the other lions. It sort of makes me wonder if he didn't lose a little bit of it. Not the tip of the actual tip of the tail, but maybe just some of the fur. To me, there's just something a bit odd about it. And he looks to be the picture of contentment. And while we have a look at his restful face, albeit covered in scars, Nisa, you were wondering, would this male lion be a threat to a female leopard and cubs? Yes, a male lion is a threat to pretty much everything out here, including other male lions, and the females that they are not familiar with or unfamiliar with, and especially the cubs of females that they have not mated with. But for leopards in particular, luckily for them, they tend to be far more agile than the muscle-bound, rather large male lions. A male lion can't really, in any way, equal the leopard's tree climbing abilities, and even Karula's cubs, in fact especially Karula's cubs at their tiny age, would be able to get right out onto the thin branches of the trees, far out of his reach, which is why we feel a lot better about viewing them now that they're over 2 months old. They're now 4 months old, just because they have developed that coordination that they need in order to escape threats like this male lion. In my experience, Nisa, it's not really established dominant male lions that pose the most threat. From what I've seen, it's sub-adult male lions that tend to go out of their way more than the dominant male lions themselves to chase things like leopards. They have a curious streak, and they have quite it's almost like they're learning what their boundaries are, and they're far more interested in things like leopards, and they've got more energy to expend than these males do. So I've seen young sub-adult male lions chasing rhino and trying to hunt rhino, even though they had absolutely no chance of being successful in this particular case. I've seen them jump onto the back of fully grown rhino, almost like a training exercise. It was the Tsalala young males that chased Karula and Tingana not far at all from where we are now, a couple of months ago. I've seen them target tortoises far more frequently. It's almost like they need to get that learning out of the way, and that instinct runs really, really powerfully in them. A dominant male lion like this Birmingham boy will probably be a little bit more reluctant to waste the energy that he actually needs to patrol and to protect his territory. Now, having just seen the Matimba male lions not terribly long ago, it strikes me now in comparison, this is the first Birmingham boy I've seen since that sighting, strikes me just how small the Birmingham boys actually are. And I don't mean that, I mean in comparison to other male lions. Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to offend you. You're still very handsome. Yes, that's your tail. Shame. They are smaller. They are genetically much smaller lions than the Matimba males. But of course, there are 4 of them. There were 5. There are now only 4 of them. An advantage in numbers is a huge thing in a male lion coalition. Here you go. Tucked himself up, and he's sort of curled up into a ball, and I think he looks smaller for his body posture as well. I think he's feeling a bit lonely. That Nkuhuma female that he was mating with the young lioness. I don't think she was terribly impressed by his attentions. I know that Brent spoke a lot about the fact that it might have been false estrus for her, one of her first estrus cycles and one of her first experiences mating with a male. And he's now left to rejoin his buddies after, I think, what was a relatively unsuccessful week spent with a lady. Well, since our lion seems to be rather sleepy, I think it's time to go and have a look at a sleepy leopard, because we're just spoiled like that.
Well, there's a tiny patch of sunset breaking through this heavy cloud exterior. It's the second night in a row we've had this tiny little window into the light, but if anything, our sleeping leopard is giving the sleeping lion a good run for its money, because he's actually tucked his nose in and cuddled himself even more. So that's not a good sign if we're thinking he's going to move shortly. So one of the reasons that leopards use these termite mounds as spots to hide and sleep on and rest on is because of the potential of prey coming upon them. And if we come out wide a little bit, and this ties in with Annie in British Columbia's question. There we go, and look at that. So now, if he keeps his head down, even if he raises his head a little bit, he looks like it could be a chimney of the termite mound. So it's a really good spot. And if something did happen to come across, he would definitely try hunt it. Guys, I've just got to be on the game drive, just trying to get Mike into the sighting. Mike, keep coming along Savage's track.
I can't copy, sorry.
Oh, no worries. Just keep coming from where you are. He's flat on top of the Shidulu. So he hasn't really moved a muscle apart from the odd twitch of the ear. There we go. There was an ear twitch. Riveting stuff. But as I say, you have to spend these quiet times with the cats to get the movement that will come. And when they do move, it is just so incredibly graceful and beautiful. It sort of just takes your breath away. So we're sitting here with a single leopard. Jamie's with a single lion. Now, George is wondering, will leopard hunt with other leopard? Because other lions hunt with other lions. They do not, George. A leopard is a solitary animal. The only time you might see that happening is when there's a mating pair together and it's more of an opportune thing, or a female leopard with cubs. So generally they do not hunt together. They're not cooperative hunters. Lions are the only social cat and the only cooperative hunting cat in the world. And it's a really, really amazing thing that leopards prefer to be solitary, and that's also why they have slightly different behavior. I will be back with you in a second. I'm just going to give Mike a hand quickly. So I'm just giving Mike some hand signals about where he should go to get a view of Mr. Tingana sleeping atop the termite mound. So while we sit with one flat cat, let's go have a look at another with Jamie.
Well, I suppose when you're just waking up, a sense of personal hygiene is relatively important, especially after the activities of the last few days, and the rather inexpert ones at that. I think perhaps feeling a little bit sore, a little bit tired. Nothing that a good few stretches won't fix. Also helps to get rid of the ticks that target the more sensitive and soft-skinned areas. It'll be interesting to see because although he's been sleeping, he's not really fully relaxed as only a male lion can be fully relaxed. And very often when lions start to lick their feet like this to groom themselves, if he gives us a couple of good yawns, then we might be in for a sight of a male lion on the move. I'm not 100% convinced though. I think he's just feeling a bit itchy. Maybe. He's certainly looking a bit perkier than he did when we first arrived. Having a good chest lick now. Now, Robin, on the subject of our lions and leopard dynamics, you were wondering if the leopards always know roughly where the lions are and if they listen to the lions roaring. Yes, they listen to the lions roaring, and yes, that would give them an idea. However, they get surprised by lions more often than you think they would. Like that sighting that I was describing earlier with Tingana and Karula, they had absolutely no idea that the Salala pride was there. Admittedly, they were somewhat distracted by each other. Oh, big yawn again. I think you're thinking about getting up, boy. The robin, no, they don't always know. But if there are lions calling, then it does give them a rough idea. The difficulty is, of course, that lions roar and then they walk for a bit and lie down. What's interesting is that leopards often pop out at lion sightings and are relatively unconcerned, because for them it's not going to be the lion they see that gets them. Just in general, leopards are just that fraction faster than lions, have a bit more stamina, and obviously their tree climbing skills far outweigh that of a lion. Although I think their flexibility, judging by the movements that he is currently performing for us, they're probably equal. You can put that foot down now. Yes, there we go. And Julia in Houston, as he grooms himself, no stone unturned, so to speak. You were wondering if this is the lion with the fungus on his belly. I think it might be. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't had a good chance to look. I thought it was initially when I first arrived. I'll have to just double check and then confirm for you in a moment. I think he might get up, even if he doesn't go terribly far. He might just be planning a quick walk around and another spot to pick. As I said, I'm still not entirely sure why underneath one of the sort of nastiest thorn trees that we have was a good plan. Another big yawn. Trying to decide whether or not it's worth getting up at this early hour of the evening. Our Rob Rhino, while he was fast asleep, we know that their ears twitch and that animals listen, but you're wondering if sleeping cats can still detect scents, the smells that waft past them. And yes, I'm relatively certain that they can. They don't really sleep in the same way human beings sleep, that we've evolved to the point where we feel safe enough to be completely switched off to the world around us. Lions, even a male lion, can't really afford to be completely, because you never know when a snack might come wandering around the corner. And it's time to put those fierce-looking canines to use. So yes, their brain will be on sort of constant alert and aware of the smells that are wafting towards them. You've done some very thorough cleaning, boy, but you might need to go and find your buddies to sort that mane out. Fix a little bit of the bad mane day. Oh, nibbling between the toes. Giving us a really good glimpse. Now that tooth of his, on the inside edge of that canine, so towards the back of his mouth, It's not just the points of those canine teeth that are sharp, it's also there's a sharp ridge that runs along the back of each canine. And that is, it's basically serrated like a steak knife. Then he's got that really, really rough tongue that he's putting to good use, although at the moment he's mainly using his incisors to nibble away at the patches in his fur. Now Sandy, who is watching in British Columbia, I have a confession to make, Sandy. I have never been anywhere in that area. I've never traveled to the North Americas, nor indeed anywhere on the western side of our continent. But you were wondering, because there are cougars in your area, whether if you encountered one during the day, would you be the more dominant of, ooh. Sorry, Sandy. Contact calling. How awesome is that? A little bit of a surprise roar for us, even if it was a little bit of a half-hearted roar. It's always the most awe-inspiring sound. You might have to try a little harder though, dude. Your buddies are quite far away from what I've heard. Although their hearing is a great deal better than ours, naturally. That was a half-hearted yawn roar. A yaw. Sorry, Sandy, I will get back to your question in a moment. I just want to see what he decides to do. He's very clearly feeling terribly lonely and very much like he'd like to know where the rest of his coalition is. He's decided that his time away from his brothers or cousins with the ladies has taught him all he needs to know, and it really is time to start heading back. But while he occupies himself cleaning his chest, Sandy, you were wondering if it's sort of the same as it is with us and the lions, because during the daytime we are very much the dominant species out here. And yes, I would say that it would be the same with a cougar, I imagine. It's the same sort of evolutionary background. They know us as hunters in the same way that our lions know the bipedal shape as the dominant predator. And then again, just as with lions, I imagine that the night time becomes a whole different story. Because when it gets dark, a sound like this, okay, maybe not like that, the sound of a proper male roaring is enough to strike fear into the hearts of a man when it is dark. Are you going to get a proper roar from you, boy? Or is it just going to be some more of these sort of half-hearted, very miserable sounding, guys, I want to come home now. I know where they are. They're not terribly far from here. They're towards our southern boundary, close to Little Gowrie, I believe. I could be mistaken, but that was the update that we received. And that, I think, is why we have the sighting all to ourselves, because I think that the other vehicles are there with the Birmingham boys and a buffalo kill. Not sure if it's all of them, but certainly at least 2 of them are south of Gowrie, Maine. So we are probably, where we are now on Knobthorne Open in Arethusa, we're probably about in a straight line 2 or so miles away. Maybe 1.5, depending exactly where they are in Little Gowrie. And I think that right foot has been hurting him a little bit, or there's something uncomfortable, maybe a burr or a thorn stuck there. Although now he's using it to clean his face. So while we wait for him to decide what his plans are for the evening. Let's go and find out from Brent what he thinks Tingana's plans might be.
Welcome back. We haven't left this male leopard yet. He's still lying flat on top of the termite mound. But we are moving into that crepuscular period of the day when it's likely for the predators to start moving. So at the moment, all he's done is actually got even more flat. So he's snoozing properly. And if we have a look back up towards the termite mound, you can see he's actually laid his head down. Now it seems like we've both got sleepy cats on this sunset safari. Jamie's sitting with the lions, or a lion, I apologize, and we're sitting with Mr. Tingana, the dominant male leopard from these areas. Now, a lot of you, I'm sure, are wondering, how do we identify these different leopards so quickly, and how, if we have a closer look, do we identify them? And I'm trying to find a good picture to show you, and we'll show you how we do that identification and what's the best and most reliable way to identify the different big cats. Now, here we go. We're going to go for a young male leopard who's recently made his way back to the Sabi Sands, and to show you how spot patterns work. Is that okay there, Brian? So each individual leopard has a completely unique spot pattern above the last line of whiskers. So you can have a look. Here is what we would call a 3-3 male. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now Tingana, if I remember correctly, is 4, 4. So there we go. That is young Sindile. Pretty boy. And he was seen very close to the boundary of Arethusa. Sorry, not seen. His collar pinged. So maybe we might be getting lucky enough to catch a visual of that naughty little chicken. But the one thing we've got to be worried about, we're going to go across to Jamie with the lion roaring.
Now that was a bit more impressive. There we go. Putting on a full show of what it's like to have a lion roaring next to your car. Now from where Viam and I were sitting, we could feel the vibrations through that in our chests. It is the most indescribable moment when a lion calls right next to you. You feel that vibration. It is one of the most, I don't know, it stops the world when a lion roars next to your vehicle. It's like everything else ceases to exist. Oh, I have a good scratch. And we are so lucky to have been able to experience that. Yes, he's definitely the one with the fungal infection. It's spread to his shoulder a little bit. You can see that raw patch there as he scratches around it. And Cindy, yes, absolutely. His buddies would have recognized that call. Look, there you go. You can sort of see that patch is very itchy and uncomfortable. You can see him rubbing it with his foot, but he hasn't really extended his claws, trying to get a bit of relief from it. Sorry, Cindy, I didn't fully answer you. I'll be with you in a sec. Oh, goodness. I wish I could do that when I get those sort of itches behind my shoulder blade. It's always impossible to reach, but he seems to do it without having to struggle. So Cindy, yes, each and every lion is capable of recognizing another individual's call. It will strike fear into the hearts of the Birmingham boys' opponents. Well, no, not quite, but it certainly lets them know that the Birminghams are actively patrolling their territory. And it will let the females know where they are, and most importantly, it's a way for him to shout across 5 miles easily in this cool winter air to his buddies on the other side of Djuma, saying, "Where are you guys? I need you to call back so that I can come and find you." And that's what he's trying to do now, and it's time for us to go with him on this journey I have no doubt he's about to pop out on Triple M, but we'll try and stick with him. It does get very thick through here, but off we go. Male lion on the move. Goodness, I didn't even get to put my car in low range. I mean, things happened so fast this afternoon. At least Rusty started this time. Okay. Stop for a moment. He's going to start going into a strychnos thicket, a monkey orange thicket. I'm going to let him get a little way ahead of us before we follow. Very dark in colour, and I think that's a combination of the fungal infection and dirt as well. He's been lying up in somewhere muddy. Okay, let's not let him get too far while we go on and follow him through the bush over to Brent and Tingana.
So his head's up, and this is a good sign. It's a precursor to movement. He's doing a bit of grooming, and leopards are avid groomers. They spend a lot of their time grooming, and it is always a good sign when you're sitting with a cat that's been sleeping for a while. Groom, and they start stretching, defecating, urinating, and then he's likely to be on the move. Now, amazingly enough, you were with that male lion roaring with Jamie. We could hear him from here, and we're probably about 4.5 kilometers away. Isn't that incredible? And he started moving as soon as that male lion roared. Definitely not anything to do with that male lion. It is just getting to that time of the day. I must say, I am definitely a fan of the crepuscular hours. And back to snooze. He's teasing with us. He's toying with us, but he is definitely a little bit more alert than he has been in the last while. Now, James Richard is wondering, is it purely a leopard's age and genetics that determine the size of its dewlap? You probably find it's going to be more to do with genetics. So that dewlap and that thick skin around a male leopard's neck is very important. It offers them that little bit of extra protection when they are fighting with other males. So I think it's probably more genetics. You find the physically bigger males have bigger, have bigger dewlaps. So if you look at an animal like Mvula, his is a bit smaller, and that's probably just because he is a much smaller leopard. Tingana probably got 30, 40 pounds in terms of weight advantage of him. He looks like if I had to describe him, he's like a heavyweight prize fighter, as opposed to Mvula, who's sort of a middle heavyweight. I think there's such a thing. I've never been much of a boxing follower myself. Now, as you can see, he is completely relaxed and ignoring us. Nisa in North Carolina is wondering, would the leopard ever perceive us as a threat at any time? Nisa, we'd have to be very badly behaved for that to happen, and we'd have to push him and drive very badly to get this leopard to see us as a threat. And fortunately, all of us around here, we don't want that. We're here to observe, not to interfere in anything that the animals are up to. So, not really, Nisa. Sometimes on foot they can perceive you as a threat. Normally they'll try scoot away from you or slink away from you. But if you happen to catch them in a bad moment or in an area where they feel a little bit cornered, they will give you a warning charge. And a leopard warning charge on foot is possibly one of the most exciting and scary and just everything at once. Now, in my younger years down south in the Sabi sands, there used to be a particular male leopard who seemed to really enjoy absolutely scaring the living daylights out of us. His name was the short-tailed male, or shorty. And when we used to track him on foot, he would often charge us. I think the most scary charge I ever faced from him was in a little river system, probably about the same size as the Mawati that runs through the center of Djuma. And I was with Mr. Matabula, my tracker, for quite a few years, and a wonderful old gentleman. And we were following these tracks, and they were very fresh, and we always tend to get quite excited when we're on fresh leopard tracks. And as we walked through a particularly narrow part of this little river system in a Tamburti thicket, the Tamburti thicket became a roaring jumbo jet. And that's what it sounds like. But we'll continue the story in a little bit. The lion's out in the open on Triple M.
The lion is out in the open and wandering down Triple M, exactly where we expected him to go, towards his buddies. And hopefully, before he crosses our boundary, we will be able to be treated to one more dazzling exhibition of his vocalizations. Scent marking, spraying the weeping wattle with urine, all part of the territorial duties of a dominant male. He's looking hungry, and I'm sure that he is very interested in the buffalo kill that the rest of his coalition apparently have. Listening carefully. An interesting point from Gen B as he goes exactly where I don't want him to go, because this is a very, very dense block. You're wondering if, since lions fight over food, would the lions not respond to his call, since to do so would mean that they would have to share their food with him? It's a very good point. The answer is no. Even though lions are very competitive over food, it does mean, their instinct towards the power of the coalition and the strength in numbers would mean that they would automatically respond. And they probably have. It's just that my human ears are too feeble to pick up on them. Now, this block is incredibly dense. I'm not going to follow him in here. As you know, we can't really afford to risk the vehicle. We don't want to damage Rusty anymore. But we are going to let him go through here without following. But what we'll do is we'll keep moving, because I'm sure he's going to head straight towards Gowrie Main. So we'll catch him there. I just need to hop onto the Game Drive channel to call it in on a different station. Okay, let's try and multitask. You hear the fork-tailed drongos alarming as he goes past. Oh, just listen to this. We will catch up with you and this male lion after the break. There's the Impala alarm calling for our internet audiences who don't have to disappear anywhere. Let's go on and catch up with him. He's going very, very quickly. We know exactly where he's going to. So we're going to try and get ahead of him and meet him there. I also know that there's a very large drainage line coming up that I don't want to make Rusty cross at this point. See if he does. Let's go a bit slower than I intended to originally. I'm so glad he did treat us to that display of calling there again. Stations 1 Madoda and Ngala just crossed into Voyatela, very close to Zoe's Road, mobile southeast. I've lost visual for now, but I'm going to try and relocate around Gowrie Main. go ahead of him a little bit. The impala are dashing about, racing away from the very highly mobile lion, as we would describe him. He's on a mission and he shall not be deterred. It's time to go and find his buddies. While we head off to catch up with the lion, Kirsty would like very much for me to link to Jamie, who has Tingana. I assume she means Brent, unless I'm really suffering from some kind of identity crisis. But enjoy the leopard.
So Mr. T has not moved a muscle, still atop his perch. His eyes opening from time to time, but not looking like he's about to get moving anytime soon. But we've still got to play the patience game with him. Just a little bit of light there. I don't think it's actually making too much difference. We'll wait. We'll wait till he gets moving. So I'm going to take the torch down. And you can see his ears are still moving, still definitely aware of what's going on around him. And if you're not aware out in the bush, you tend to live very short lives. We are sitting with him at the right time of day for him to get moving. I think it's likely that he should get moving before the end of the sunset safari. And if you're wondering anything about this spectacular male leopard, feel free to send me a question on that using the hashtag #SafariLive. And it is quite a peaceful setting amongst the clawless grass atop the termite mound. You can see the gentle breeze is even more gentle now. It's more of a whisper. Now it's going to be interesting to see which way he goes from here. Now he has been patrolling extensively at the moment, and I think we can almost flip a coin to where he's going to head. He could change direction very easily. Sleepy kitty. He's tucked his nose down again. Welcome back. We are still sitting with this beautiful male leopard. Jamie is still following that male lion. What an exciting sunset safari so far. Big cats abound. And just as we jumped over to Jamie to go listen to that incredible sound of a male lion roaring, it really does rattle the bones, so to speak. I was telling you about why my bones being rattled by a male leopard a few years ago. Now, he charged out of this Timbuti thicket. Timbuti is a tree, by the way. You have no idea. A leopard does 24 meters per second. So he charged from under 5 meters. Literally, he just went, and then he stopped less than a half meter. My leg was covered in sand and saliva. And then he ran off and he charged me again. He charged us from behind and again and again and again. I walked out of that riverbed literally shaking. I was carrying a rifle. I didn't even have time to move it. And oh, excuse me. And that's one of the reasons that if an animal in the bush really wants to get hold of you, it doesn't matter how fast you are. You're not fast enough. So I do love walking animals and definitely spending time with big cats on foot. Being charged multiple times by a leopard is definitely an experience I loved, but wouldn't want to replicate too many times. So he is still fast asleep, and not going to be charging us anytime soon, at least. So as it gets darker, I was hoping he was going to move, but not yet. I can hear that lion Jamie's following roaring from all the way here. Brian's putting up his ambient. No, I think he's a bit too far. I know Jamie's trying to catch up with him. He took a shortcut through the block. But now Mr. Tingana is listening to where that lion is. He is heading down this way slightly. Although that lion's still quite far away. He could be hearing something else. There could be an impala. There could be anything around here. So, listening quite intently. So while we watch this male leopard, we've got a very interesting question from Common Sense, who's a new viewer from Poland. Common Sense is wondering, how big is this compound? This is not a compound. This is the African wilderness. We are part of an 8 million acre open system where the wildlife runs free. The animals can go wherever they please. We play second fiddle to them out here. This is not a fenced zoo or compound. This is the deepest, darkest of the African bush. And we are currently sitting with two incredible dominant male big cats, a leopard and a lion on the other vehicle. And really great to have you here with us. Common Sense. And hopefully you'll become a fan and join us as we follow the lives of these animals. Now his head is up, and hopefully he's going to get moving while we play the waiting game. Let's go to Jamie, who's with that other gorgeous big cat.
And there's not much more that is as impressive as the sight of a male lion walking down the road towards you, looking to see if he can't be reunited with his buddies. And I'm about to reunite myself with an Nkuhuma tree. Perhaps I should look where I'm going as we do this in reverse in the dark. There we go. That's a little bit better. There's the road. It takes a special amount of practice to pull this off, but he is exactly where we expected him to be, heading straight south towards Garibane and the rest of his coalition. Whoopsie, went off the road again. Let's let him go past. Quite a magnificent sight. Walking underneath the tree that his pride, that he's currently dominant over, was named after. The Nkuhuma, or the brown ivory tree. And Sherry, you were wondering whether or not they start that soft contact call. because they don't know if their buddies might be close by, and then get louder as they realize that they are not. It's a really good question, I suppose, although male lion has no real reason to soften the blow of his call, so to speak. He wants other lions to hear him. I think it's more kind of warming up, getting into the idea of it. Let's go straight to Gowrie Main rather than attempting to off-road in the dark through there. That's a really good question. I'm not 100% sure about the answer to that. I suspect it is just because they are getting into it, stretching the muscles, because there is a huge amount of physical work that goes into a lion when it makes that sound. What they have is they've got a special muscle that attaches their larynx to their diaphragm, and when it contracts, it pulls it down and creates that incredibly deep sound that is a lion's roar, both for the males and for the females. It really is an incredible feat of nature. And in its own way, it does actually take a physical toll on them. So maybe it's almost like warming up, but it could also be that they're not 100% sure. Oh. Sorry guys, there's a whole herd of zebra that's just walked in there. This could be interesting. They're about to come running out at high speed. I have to take my spotlight off. We don't want to interfere with this. That was a surprise. They're blundering straight into him. The night is as still as can be, and he is right there. And while we wait to see how this plays out, let's head across to Tingana.
So I'm just going to give you a quick look. It looks like he might have heard something. He's not in full stalk yet, but he's meandered down there. So we're not going to follow him, especially not in this boat. We're not going to be able to sail through the dark night. What I will do is just wait in an open area close by. And let's see how we go. But this is a very thick area, and it's going to be very difficult in the boat during the day, let alone to sail at night. I don't know if I've got my boating license for after dark. So while we try to figure out what's going on here, let's go back to Jamie and that male lion.
Okay, so he's gone for them. I don't know what's happened. There's a cloud of dust. Mike is here as well. We can use the spotlight at this point because they have realized that he is there. I just want to have a quick chat to Mike because he was a bit closer to where we were. There he is. Never mind. It's a very upset zebra and one male lion that is far more interested in finding his friends rather than hunting zebra just right now. And there he goes right across to our southern boundary, and this will be the last view that we have of him. And there are some very, very upset zebras snorting off in the distance. The funniest part of that, at least they all made it out okay, was also the sudden expulsion of digestive gases coming from those zebra. It was quite intense. He's going to do some marking on Gowrie Main, and then he's going to continue on straight across south and into Little Gowrie. And that will be our last... Oh, he's calling. Whoops. Try not to blind poor Mike and his tracker. Well, we'll just sit in the darkness and listen. Oh, so incredible. Now Mike has just arrived and we have managed to spend a great deal of time with this particular lion. So what that means is we are going to let him go in front of us so that he can enjoy the sighting and the guests on the back of his vehicle can enjoy that male lion roar. We've had a pleasurable time with him. There might actually be space for two of us driving abreast. Let's see how we go. I don't want to blind his passengers either while they sit on the back. And we know that he is going to go south relatively soon. To listen, waiting desperately for the response from the other males. We've enjoyed an amazing time with him. I'm going to let this be our last shot for the sunset safari and just watch him as he moves off into the darkness and off to join the rest of the coalition. Just a shape disappearing into the night. Cool. What an awesome way to spend an afternoon. Mike? I'm going to leave him all to you. We're going to head off. Cool. Yes, that is very true. Enjoy. Cheers, guys. No problem. The reason I'm leaving him is I do know that he's going to cross south very, very soon. And it just gives Mike's guests a chance to really enjoy that sighting and the vocalizations that are occurring. So while we head off into the night to find other fantastic things to see, let's find out what Brent's plans are now that Tingana has moved off.
Well, Tingana went right into those monkey orange thickets and we were unable to follow in the boat. I think we would have struggled in any vehicle in the dark to follow that leopard through there. What I am going to do, I just decided to come have a quick look around the seep line at the tree house waterhole, and it seems to be nothing here. So he was heading in an easterly direction, so I'm going to turn around and head to the next road down. We might get lucky, he might pop out of that really thick area. Well, we took the high road there, now let's take the low road back. So the last place we saw him was heading in that sort of direction there. Now, hopefully he catches something on Djuma and will be around tomorrow or for the next couple of days at least. So we might get a glimpse as he moves through the bush here. So we're going to try find him again and hopefully he pops out into the road. But while we look for one of the big cats, Jamie's got one of the smallest inhabitants of the African bush.
And we don't necessarily, when we talk about the nocturnal creatures, really throw termites onto our radar, but just have a look at how incredibly busy these termites are. And of course this is where the nocturnal termites do most of their work, unless it is a cloudy day. Look Look at them all working together to move that branch. That's incredible. Well, I say that not very successfully, but they are trying. I sort of get the impression that they're pulling in opposite directions. We're going to leave our termites, but Brent has a lovely surprise for you.
So as we linked away, I just suddenly heard Tingana calling just down the road. So we sped down there quickly, and we could hear him giving his dominant male territorial call. I'm hoping he does it again. Hey, mister. Here's such a pretty leopard in his prime.
Leaving 1 minute and Gala
Oh, sorry about that.
on Gary Main.
Now I'm really hoping. There we go. Isn't this incredible? We've had male lion and male leopard vocalizing in one safari. Now it looks like he could be listening for any pretender to his throne calling back. I'm going to move forward slightly. Now where he's heading there is an impenetrable wall, and there's a little very steep river system at the bottom. I might be able to catch him on the other side, but we might lose him as he goes through here. Come on, one more call, big boy. Now his calls are not only to the other big male leopards in the area, it's to any of those young dispersal males and to any nomadic males like Mvula, just to let them know that they shouldn't have any ideas on his territory. He's still the big boss around here. Very much listening intently. I wonder if he heard something on the other side of this little thicket or river system, or is he listening for a potential challenger to his throne? Just keeping quiet. I've been trying to listen. He's having a lick now. He is an absolutely gorgeous individual. I agree wholeheartedly with Charlie, who says roaring and soaring within minutes of each other. Very cool. I think I might go one more than cool. There we go, absolutely sublime.
While Brent has disappeared off your screen, we've just been enjoying the slow end of the cold front and the end to a really extraordinarily beautiful day. So many cats, we've just been exceptionally spoilt. We had lion calling, we had leopards sawing. Really doesn't get better than that as a way to end off a day. Monday? It is Monday, definitely. No, it is Monday. I wasn't sure if it was Monday or Sunday, but it was Monday apparently.
Somewhere in that region.
Liam, I think, feels much the same. And now every time I stop here, I just have to check the bush baby hole. Nobody is home. Not today. This is where we had him playing peekaboo with us the other evening, but I think we've arrived a little bit too late. The bush baby's probably gone out searching for food already. Let's go and see if we can find one for you then. Hopping about in the trees or some other interesting and unusual animals. I know that Brent was discussing earlier about what he would like to see. He said serval, Herbert said aardvark, Brent also said aardwolf, I think. Now, if I see an aardwolf, I think that would really be a fitting end to an extraordinary drive. Here come our zebra. I'm dropping my lights. As you know, we don't shine on diurnal animals. I don't want to cause them any damage, but there are zebra moving about in the background there. Probably with heartbeats going a little bit faster than they might otherwise have been doing after that somewhat narrow escape from the lion. And I think they were very lucky that he was as preoccupied as he was with finding his friends. Now, Mike had called in a couple of moments ago that the Birmingham boy did exactly what we expected him to do and went south into Little Gowrie. We'll know that he will be reunited with them probably in less than an hour or so, probably in less than half an hour or so, before the end of the sunset safari. And Mike has just called in now on the Game Drive channel that he's just found a female leopard crossing south over Gowrie, Main. And one has to wonder if that was in fact Karula and that if she's been giving us the slip the whole day. Maybe just walking up and down Gowrie, Main and confusing us. Or perhaps she's just been stalking along that boundary. Either way, she is now hunting and it is quite dark, so we don't want to go and interrupt her, and I don't think we'd get there just in time. And Paul has said to help me remember what day of the week it is. If there's lions and leopards calling, then it must be a Monday. Oh, fair enough, Paul. Can't really argue with that. What's it, Saturday Catterday? It was Monday Catterday, which doesn't quite have the same ring to it, but we're certainly not going to argue. We are definitely not going to argue with when the cats decide to give us an awesome display like that. Oh, sorry, little Dacre. What I'm doing at the moment for any of our newer viewers is using the spotlight to pick up the eye shine of any of the animals that might be reflecting back at us. They have a layer at the back of their eye called a tapetum lucidum. And animals like the big cats, the nocturnal predators, they have particularly reflective tapetum lucidums that bounce the light back. They look almost like, well, cat's eyes on the road. or like hazard stickers in a way. We have a question from one of our viewers asking if we know each and every cat in the Sabi sand. So SB, you were wondering about that, and the answer is personally no, I don't. I don't have any claim to knowing every cat in the Sabi sands. A lot of our viewers keep track in a wonderful way of all of the different individuals that move about. At this point we know all of the cats that hang about in our area, but less so in terms of those that move outside. Now James and Brent have both worked at Londolozi. Scott also had worked a lot in the southern Sabi sands. They are far more familiar with some of the individuals that are still alive from their time guiding in that area. I came from a different part of the country completely, so whilst I've got to know the characters that we see occasionally here, I haven't learnt about the rest of them. I had a whole different set of individuals that I knew about. And it is difficult to keep track of individuals unless you are seeing them every single day. But there are Facebook groups and all kinds of social media groups that do indeed keep track of the different movements of the different cats. As we spotlight around, just forgive me one moment. Mike is trying to get hold of us. Go ahead, Mike. Copy that. Thanks very much, Mike. Enjoy. I don't think we'll be responding for this evening. Thanks though, Mike. It's a good place to start tomorrow morning. So the reason why I'm telling Mike that we are not going to be responding to his sighting of Karula is that she is very busy stalking. She's a single mom with 2 ravenous mouths to feed above and beyond her own. And I'm going to let her just move into the night and go and hunt for herself, as Mike is going to do shortly. So that's why I'm just letting you know, that's why I'm not going to that sighting for now. It is also exceptionally far away, so there's a very good chance we could race there and then completely miss out on the opportunity to see her. And we'll let her go about her evening business as only Karula can. We know she's a gifted hunter. We also know that she's been trying to hunt unsuccessfully all day. And we'll leave it up to her to do that, and we will look for her again tomorrow morning. But she is a sneaky one, that one, because we must have gone straight past her this afternoon, both Brent and myself and Herbert and probably about 10 other vehicles, because she's right where we stopped, and we did several checks, and where Brent found her tracks crossing south. So she's been wondering about occupying herself throughout the day. Oh, there's some impala as well. But while we spotlight for some of the more unusual nocturnal creatures, Ruth, you were wondering whether we've ever seen a caracal on drive. And the answer is no, I haven't seen one on Djuma yet. I have seen them regularly in the past, but I have yet to see one wandering around Djuma. For those of you who don't know, a caracal is kind of like a bobcat, a lynx, in the way that it's got the tufts on the end of its ear. It is a medium-sized, very almost brick red cat, about the same size as a serval, but a bit stockier, a bit heavier. Very, very skilled tree climbers and incredible jumpers. There are some amazing videos for those of you who are at a loss as to what to do with yourself after the sunset safari. You want to go and have a look at some of the videos of caracals leaping up into the air. They are poetry in motion to watch. I have not seen one on any of the live drives. I don't know whether any of our more regular viewers, those of you who've been watching for years, have ever seen one on a live drive. It hasn't happened, as far as I know, since I started working here a year ago. I'm not 100% certain if one has been seen. That's an impala, not a serval. They can be a bit tricky. Oh, 'tis a duiker. Sorry, Vim. Sorry. I didn't see you were looking there. My mistake. Left you all in darkness. I just get so caught up in the excitement of traveling into the night. Well, we've come now to the end of our sunset safari, and it's unfortunately time for me to say farewell for now, but we will be following up tomorrow on the sunset safari once again. So thank you, Viam, for your fantastic camera work. It's been an epic afternoon, and thank you to the lovely ladies in Final Control, and most importantly, thank you to all of you across the globe watching, and again, thank you for your patience with all of our strange little rehearsal techniques that we're putting into place. We do appreciate having all of you on board our safari. Have a wonderful day, and we will catch you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
What an amazing sunset safari, even though the weather was a bit foofy, for lack of a better word. We had incredible leopard and lion, and can't really ask for a better day out in the office and then spending some time with leopard and lion. And as Jamie was saying, we're only going to see you on the sunset safari tomorrow. We have bracketed the sunrise safari for rehearsal, so we're going to be practicing getting some stuff ready for the TV shows this weekend. So I know for a lot of our viewers in the North Americas, it'll be an opportunity for you to catch up on some sleep. And hopefully, while we're rehearsing out here, we'll find some kitty cats for tomorrow's sunset safari. But it has been splendid, and thank you for all the questions. It's always interesting to hear from you guys and your comments. We really do enjoy hearing from you, and love sharing our passion and knowledge for the African bush with all of you. And what a good start for the Killer Bees sailing. The first time both of us have sailed, from Captain Leo Smith and first mate Brian Joubert and the Thumb, and first officer Herbert of the SSS boat. It's been wonderful, and we look forward to having you on the sunset safari tomorrow evening. Ships ahoy! Yar! Yar! Yeah, that was a good one. Arula, we managed to. She's the dominant female leopard in our area.